Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi here, as always, to meet, pray, and love. Now, we live in an increasingly anxious world. I probably don't have to explain that. The level of anxiety has doubled or even tripled since before the illness in 2020. Processed foods thrive in an anxious culture. You remember that song, Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd? That's what processed foods do to us. They are a quick break, a numbing break from all the chaos around us. For a few minutes, we get a little rush, a little relief from the difficulties and stresses of everyday life. Like a cigarette used to be for people. That's what processed foods are. And it makes sense because processed food companies bought all the cigarette companies in the late 80s and early 90s. It's the same business plan. But we carnivores have a very different solution to anxiety and stress. It is something I call the carnivore calm. Another way to think of it is a mind like water. Now, what does that mean? You take a rock and you throw it or you skip it in water, and the water, like a lake or a stream, responds appropriately. Our mind should be the same way. It should respond appropriately to every situation. And with carnivore, we can get there. So how do we get there? Is this something that we carnivores can turn on demand? I think so. Let's start with the carnivore calm, how we get it. But before we jump in, if you're enjoying this, hit and subscribe if you haven't already. Makes me feel a lot calmer to know you'll get the next video. I believe we can turn on the carnivore calm when we need it, and it rests on certain practices. These are the practices that work for me, and you can adapt them to work for you. The first practice is mindfulness. I both pray and meditate daily. Prayer has been something my whole life, but meditation came 5 years ago after a running injury laid me up for 3 weeks. I was in the hospital, then I was in rehab, inpatient. It was really horrible. But I took that opportunity, I couldn't really move anywhere, to learn to meditate. And then I deepened my practice during the lockdowns. Meditation is a time to clear out all of the noise of daily life. In that way, it's similar to carnivore. Carnivore gets rid of all the noise of junk food in our lives, and we focus on our core nutrition, on what our body needs. Meditation gets rid of all the distractions and centers our mind around listening, seeing, feeling. These are the components of awareness. And I found carnivore really enhanced my meditation practice remarkably. It's easier to sit still for a longer period of time. My mind wanders less. It's easier and quicker to just get started and jump into the practice. There's not a long transition time. And interestingly, I have met many carnivore meditators. It's odd because at a meditation retreat, they're almost all 100% vegetarian. It's so annoying. So when I go, I bring carnivore bars, and I usually will stay off-site so I can cook and eat what I'd like. It's not ideal, but it's better for me. I can only imagine how much better other meditators would feel if they embraced the proper human diet, if they got rid of the toxic vegetables that are holding them back. But you can't change couple thousand-year-old tradition. But even if you've never meditated before and aren't interested in meditation, you've probably paused and taken a few breaths at one time just to calm down and relax. Meditation just turns that into a regular discipline. It enhances the carnivore calm we already have. And you don't need to do it for long. In fact, Stanford University just came out with a new study about this practice they call cyclical sighing, and it shows a sizable reduction in anxiety and improvements in mood if you practice it for just 2 weeks. And all cyclical sighing is it's a deep breath through the nose for 1 second, sharp inhale, followed by a controlled releasing sigh exhale. That's about twice the duration of the inhale. So if your inhale takes 2 seconds, Your exhale should take 4 seconds. It's very calming. In this study, it seems that you can get incredible improvements in happiness and joy if you just practice it for 5 minutes a day. Isn't that amazing? So that truly enhances the carnivore calm. You combine breathing and nutrition, and you are in an extraordinary state of mind. A second practice I do that I know many carnivores do is walking. Walking and carnivore go hand in hand. Because think about it, you don't need tons of intense exercise to stay in shape if you're a carnivore. There's a great book I read recently called The Philosophy of Walking. Here's one great quote. As you start walking, all that noise, all those rumors fade out. What's new? Nothing. The calm eternity of things, endlessly renewed. I love that. I like to walk barefoot in decent weather. I'm in Chicago, so it's not all year I can do that. Old Guy Carnivore does the same thing. In fact, he's videoed his bare feet. I haven't done that yet. Why barefoot? It connects us to nature. There's a certain energy in the ground, in the land. Now, that might sound a little new agey, and I'm not a new agey guy, but that's not how it actually feels at all. Walking barefoot feels very practical. It toughens our feet. Think about it. Our ancestors didn't wear big, thick shoes. They had a light covering on their feet, if anything. And obviously, we can't do this in certain climates and areas. Walking barefoot it nurtures our sense of connection to nature. There's a Substack I read where the author walks different cities around the world. He doesn't do it barefoot. He's wearing shoes. But the point is, he attains a certain peacefulness, a perspective in walking. That same book I referenced above says, quote, the decision to walk, to head somewhere far off, anywhere, to try something else, can be understood as the call of the wild. I agree. It's a healthier version of the little break from the stresses of life that processed foods give. And it reduces anxiety. Nature has been shown to reduce anxiety over and over. Why do you think cities built parks? It was a way of reducing the anxiety of city life. We can get that anytime we need with a walk. Third, another practice, intermittent fasting. Now, this comes naturally as you progress on the carnivore diet. And I would recommend you don't force it. You just let it emerge organically. It doesn't have to feel like a burden. When you stop eating carbs altogether, you begin to restore your satiety signals when you're full, when you don't need any more food. It's perfect, our satiety signals. And it's not instant. You don't get these satiety signals back right away. But it is remarkable how different it feels than the standard American diet. You just don't think about food as much. You're more in the moment, not worrying. It's hard to describe this calm that comes with intermittent fasting. In fact, I notice, even before carnivore, I noticed that many older people naturally intermittent fast. Now, this is generally true for older people who have consistent hobbies and still feel a sense of purpose. I hope I'm talking about each of you. Some people, unfortunately, have nothing to do all day but sit around and eat. That's unfortunate. I do know some people for whom that's their life also. But a sense of purpose, hobbies, family, continuing education, volunteering, doing something productive, working on a project, makes intermittent fasting easier. It gets our mind away from addictive food and enriches our appreciation of our body and our mind. Practice. Add some life rituals. Now, we already have lots of rituals in life. Perhaps we brush our teeth at the same time and in the same way every day. We probably put on our shoes and socks in the same order every day. Great athletes and performers have rituals. I just read a great article in the Wall Street Journal that mentioned 2 interesting rituals from great athletes. Tennis champion Serena Williams bounces the ball 5 times before her first serve and 2 times before her second serve. Portuguese soccer star Ronaldo will take his first step out on the field only with his right foot. And there were even a few others. One baseball star Garcia Parra, Nomar Garcia Parra, had a highly visible and recognizable routine at home plate before each pitch. Step into the batter's box, then out. Then tighten his batting gloves, adjust his wristband on his left forearm, tighten the gloves some more, then touch both gloves. You can watch this. The wristband, the right thigh, back, left, shoulder, helmet, belt, helmet again, and finally step back into the box. He does this very quickly. Then when he's in the box, he taps his toes against the ground and he's ready to bat. What a ritual. Now, rituals work because, as one scholar put it, quote, they measurably tamp down rising patterns of stress and arousal as people perform difficult tasks and make mistakes. Yes, rituals ground us. They help us keep going. They give us a way of getting our mind off of self-evaluation. So important. You can create rituals for yourself, especially around carnivore. Maybe you eat and then you go for a walk. Maybe you fast every 5 days. Figure out some rituals. They will make your life richer. As the article continues, 2 psychology professors at Washington University in St. Louis suggest that rituals, whatever the type, have developed in humans to offer the possibility of addressing our stress by simply giving us something else to focus on. That's good. Leaving less space for our intrusive, anxious thoughts. Yes. Combined with the carnivore calm induced by our food, rituals will ground us. They will nurture us. They will make our life so much richer. I often think processed foods and just eating carbs in general is just a big way of numbing ourselves to the normal stresses of life. But we don't need to numb ourselves. When we follow the carnivore diet, we are optimizing ourselves so that we can deal with those stresses. It's almost like a magical power. Now, more research showed, this is great, a study from the University of Toronto taught subjects a physical ritual, then had them complete a difficult button-pressing test designed to induce errors while monitoring their brain activity. The researchers were able to measure that an electrical response known as error-related negativity was reduced after the subjects performed their rituals. In other words, participants were less focused on their mistakes, and that helped them to stay closer to the moderate level of arousal ideal for performance. In other words, when we are following a ritual, we're not stressing ourselves out, we're staying in the moment, and we're doing the task as we need it to do. No ritual has the power to make us rock stars or the greatest athletes in the world. We're still better or worse at certain activities, but rituals can give us a way to manage our nerves. We can dial into the skills we've worked so hard to achieve, and we can dial into the calm that the carnivore way of eating has given us so that we can relax and do what needs to be done. The carnivore diet solves a lot of problems. It can't cure anxiety, but it can set the context in which we can manage it so much more effectively.